My mother's two brothers were greyhound trainers, and they only lived 200 yards away from us in Talara in the western part of Maitland. Another brother of hers that lived there also, he was a bookmaker, and he bookmaked on the greyhounds. And also my father's sister, she was a greyhound trainer as well. She lived down at Ash Island with the Marr family. And from the turn, my father, he liked the dogs, but he also loved the horses and the trots. And from an early age, and I mean, early, 7, 8, we'd be listening to the static radio calls of Ray Conroy and blokes like that, way back at Harold Park and Wentworth Park, whether it was a Friday night or a Saturday night. They raced, just once a week. And, I really took a liking to greyhounds from a young age. Now, when my uncles had the greyhounds up there, I'd finish school from the time I was about, 10, 12-year-old, walk the greyhounds with them. And then a lot of times I'd do, as I got older, do it on my own when they had something else on. There was a fella called Harold Cook. He's still alive up the other side of Maitland. He was a good trainer, very smart man. He taught me a lot. I used to go to the meetings with Harold and trials and that with him. And Ken Cheetham had a big influence on me. From the time I was in, 15, 16, 17, Ken lived at Rutherford, just, probably a mile or two from where we lived. Go up to Ken's, walk the dogs with him, go to the meetings, numerous trips to Wentworth Park and Harold Park. And of course, Ken won the Derby back in the early to mid-60s with Flying Myob, the National Derby, and that was his first big winner. And look at he's done in the game. He's just, I don't think there's a better trainer anywhere. But, mate, I just loved, when I was younger, going to the meetings, punting. Punterholic in the early days, I can tell you. Punterholic. But loved going to Singleton on a Friday night. Loved Cessnock. On the Monday night on the big track there, one of the great tracks. Loved Newcastle on a Saturday. When I started going to Newcastle on a Saturday at Beaumont Park, they had 80 odd bookies, way back. I saw the Great Zoom top race on TV. I don't think I've ever seen a faster dog, TV or live, than Brett Lee. An absolute sensation. Worth Doing was a crackerjack dog. I was at Wentworth Park the night he won the Derby. Brother Fox came here to Maitland. We're doing this interview today in the director's room at the Maitland Showground, the Maitland track. I was calling the night Brother Fox came here across from Dubbo and had a run here. I think it was in the 5th grade, because he broke his maiden at Grafton. I was there at the carnival in July when he won his maiden, and heat of the big classic. And then he raced here, and then he also, don't know whether he raced or trialled at Singleton one night that I was calling up here. Zoom Top came to Newcastle. What a freak she was, absolute freak, an iron dog. They're just some of the dogs. The dog of Ken Cheetham's that won the Derby, Flying Myob, he was a croc. Ken used to patch him up with the help of a bloke called Harold Cook, who I spoke about earlier. They worked on him, got him to the post and won the National Derby. That dog was a terrific dog, and, if he'd have been a sound dog, could have been anything. No, I have had a few. I don't own any at the moment. Dogs, horses, nothing. But, mate, I had a pretty good bitch called Rural Dusty. I was working in the Rural Bank, and I got 3 of the young blokes at Singleton we were. I was an accountant up there in the Rural Bank. We got 3 of the young blokes to go in a dog with me. I bought it off Bill Barnett. It was a sister to a champion stayer called Britannia. She was out of the same litter, multiple Group 1 winner, track record holder of about 5 records. But our bitch was all right too. She won 13 races. We got really good money out of her one day at Newcastle. She won a maiden, 700 maiden there, or I'm not even sure what the distances were now. It's that long since they raced. We used to call them 700s. I think it was about 680, 684 or 686. there and at Gosford. Anyhow, we trialled her there, got a bloke to trial her, and I stood up the back and clocked her in the trial, and she went good enough to win, so we all had a good bet on the Saturday. There were 3 concession bookies, and she won, and then she won again there the next week. She won about 13, ran a record at Muswellbrook over the 790 for us, and we got a lot of enjoyment out of her. We had a dog called Wild Todd, trained by a good friend Graham Tuck. He won 6 or 7 races, particularly at Singleton. Very fast dog, a black dog, by Wild Port, who Noel Pickett, another good old friend from the greyhound days gone by. He trained, he had it stud up there at Branxton. He was a really good dog on the track. And I've had others, not so successful, but other winners, but you know, I really enjoyed it. Blokes like the Irwins, Jack Irwin and his son Dave. There's no peers in greyhound training, you know, with those blokes. They're just superstars, and they can check a dog, they can train a dog, do anything. Ken Cheatham, as I said earlier, you know, other blokes around. Donnie McMillan had a great record. Neville Ballinger on the South Coast was a great trainer. I'm going to forget plenty here, but you know, they were. Andy Lord at the moment wins race after race. Andy keeps, Jason Mackay. Well, Jason's a friend, a good friend, family friend. I saw Jason grow up, saw him play football with Cessnock. I played over 100 games with Maitland, but I'd well and truly retired when Jason come along. And Jason, I knew his dad Ian. They come from out the coalfields. He raced dogs and he was a muscle man. And then Jason come along, played footy, then trained dogs, learned a lot off the Irwins, Dave in particular, Dave and Jack. He played footy for Wyong. He went up to Tweedheads. I think he played up there too, but what a trainer he's turned out to be. Jason, like, I only did an article this week for the Greyhound Recorder about him winning at Newcastle Cup in record time, a zipping lad. Do you know that he's got 8 dogs that currently hold track records in New South Wales and 1 in the ACT that were trained by him? That's an amazing feat. He's a master trainer of stayers, but a great trainer of sprinters as well. I tell you, there was a night there at Beaumont Park. We had a crackerjack field there. Credibility, South Road said Jessica Casey, the Greyhound of the Year. There was a 4th one in a special race. Troy, my son, was at the NJC and he put the race together. Winfield Classic, or All Stars or something they called it. Anyhow, a mate of mine was working at the brewery in Newcastle, which is right on the water. That's a big restaurant place there, and they made beer there. Made beer. So they made ginger beer too. And he said, look, can we give away some ginger beer samples? I said, oh, that'll be no problem. So I said to the boss of the NJC at the time, you know, they want to come over. And, yeah, that's all right. Anyway, halfway through the night, there's a few people drinking the ginger beer and they're starting to wobble a bit. So someone came to me and said, listen, that ginger beer, it's got a fair bit of alcohol in it. So I went over and said, and the bloke said, oh, yeah, it's got, you know, so much percentage alcohol. I said, oh, gee, you'll get a shot. These blokes are going to drive home. You know, this is since the breathalyzer come in. These people have been sampling the ginger beer and then they got to drive home.